Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Sometimes I forget to introduce myself in case you're just landing here. Glad to have you. Hope you stick around. Hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks so many of you who have been hyping the channel. I'm really working hard to try and grow it and grow my audience. So I appreciate your time, your energy, your comments, all of it. Just really, it's a vibe, and I never ever take that for granted. A couple of things. I'm dressed super casual today because many of you know Thursdays is Grandma Day for me. So I'm getting ready to, get knee deep in some play toys in a little bit when the granddaughter gets here. So before that, I'm gonna go ahead and get into a couple of things that Spirit led me to. I want to follow up real quickly on yesterday. Of course, I talked about the result of the vote in Virginia for the redistricted map. And then we hear last night, of course, this wild judge came out and struck it down. So looks like it's gonna have to go to the Supreme Court. Want to just check in real quick and make sure. Overall, the sense that I'm getting and what I've been reading is the Supreme Court will hold it because it was the voters' will. It was the will of the voters. The point spread was only 3 points, but that's significant enough for it not to be challenged. But let's just go to Spirit and see, because that's important. That really is important. Spirit, will the Supreme Court in Virginia uphold the map that the voters? Page of Fire. I like that. Page of Wands. This is just simply the effort to challenge it, essentially. Spirit, will it hold? Will the Supreme Court hold? King of Cups, that's somebody on their Supreme Court. And the Ace of Earth. I knew it. I knew I wasn't going to have to spend a lot of time with this. I think the Supreme Court is going to uphold it, right? So we know Florida's going to jump into the fray. But again, what Spirit is saying is even if the Florida situation is going to get challenged, because that's going to be from the legislature, not from the voters, right? That's just going to be DeSantis and company willy-nilly trying to put it through, and that is going to get challenged. But looks like Virginia's going to hold, all right? Unfortunate that it has to go through this extra loophole, but it's going to hold. All right, food shortages, you all. This thing, with the continued back and forth and closing around in the Strait of Hormuz. Fertilizer, we know farmers, are up in arms because, crops are going to be, there's a problem. Anything wheat, rice, other crops in trouble. So while we're hearing $5 gas is, a red line in the sand for many in MAGA who would tolerate some of anything else, ICE taking out people on the streets and everything else. But that $5 gas was a line in the sand. How about some food shortages? How are you going to react to that? Is that going to impact? Is that a thing? Is that going to become a thing in the U.S.? We've already heard it's pretty certain that it will become, it's a real risk in Africa, throughout many areas, countries in Africa. I saw India and some other places globally, but I want to specifically look here in the United States. Are we going to look at food shortages? Are we going to experience food shortages as a result of this closing of the Strait of Hormuz? The Ten of Swords at the bottom of the deck, it certainly is cause for worry. The High Priestess. The Knight of Swords. High Priestess, they know it's coming. They know it's a possibility. The government, they know that the risks are real. The farmers have been screaming at the top of their lungs now. So they know the risks are real, but with the High Priestess, there's this in-between phase of how do we appear to be trying to mitigate that or stop that from happening at the same time that we're pursuing this agenda to continue the war. And the Knight of Swords, this is going to be an increasing conversation, an increasing reporting around this. It's going to become a real issue, and it's going to become an issue in the voting. The Nine of Cups, what people want and the desire of the people, especially voters here as we get closer to the midterms. We're heading into summer. Time's ticking, clock's ticking. And the Nine of Cups, people's desire to be able to have food or sufficient food, and not to mention prices. And the Emperor, this is coming down hard on Trump. Bottom line, this is coming down hard on Trump. And I'm also getting with that Knight of Swords that we got, this is coming down hard on him from candidates running for office, especially. They're looking at him like, you're really endangering our chances, which are already tanked, right? We know that. The Six of Swords, trying to figure out a solution in the short term. Spirit, will there be something, will the Strait of Hormuz open up soon enough that we don't experience the effects or the impact of shortages? The Ace of Swords, phew, glad to see that. Yeah, something's going to get worked out so we don't get those shortages, because again, this is falling so squarely in the lap of Trump. I'd see him as the emperor there. It's falling so squarely in his lap. And again, thinking of that, the $5 gas, rising prices on everything else. This is just another bridge too far to say, people now, you've got food shortages and not adequate supply in the stores. Now I am getting, Spirit is saying there will be some sort of reduction in production, because some of this damage has already been done, but they're going to do something. All of that swords energy that we saw, and swords moves pretty fast. It can move pretty fast. I think we're going to see something being done to offset that. Especially, my question was regarding especially here in the United States. So I think some of that waffling in that high priestess is there are going to be some shortages around the globe for sure. There's going to be some food shortages around the globe, but the steps that Trump will take here in the United States to try and mitigate that, with everything on the line during the approaching midterms, I don't think that we're going to see anything devastating. Let me put it that way. All right. Navy Secretary, right after the Army General, head of the Army, the Randy George, a couple of weeks ago. Now we have John Phelan out, Secretary of the Navy, Keg's Breath, as you all call him. Keg's Breath has done it again. Now here's what I'm wondering. We saw, some people said it was propaganda. We saw images of food on the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Tripoli Navy ships in Iran, like with basically what looked like food rations, right? Like there were stories coming out that the soldiers were hungry, like they were not being fed. Then, over the weekend, we saw images taken aboard the ships that, especially on Fox News. I didn't watch it. I saw the images on social media. Okay, I can't do it. But then they, these big buffets and no problems here. I just want to get a clearer image. Why John Phelan, Navy, like clearly square front and center of everything that's happening in Iran. What is Spirit? What is the real deal with why Keg's Breath forced John Phelan out? Temperance, because he wouldn't cooperate. He wants the change. He wanted, there was pushback from Phelan about what was being done, how the operations are being carried out in Iran. The King of Pentacles, that's Phelan, and the World. So this is Phelan being pushed out, the World, because there was a disagreement with Keg's Breath over policies. And the Three of Cups, and the Sun, and the Ace of Swords. I'm going like three different directions in this. Phelan wanted more in order, excuse me, in order to succeed, or to at least lend the appearance of success for the military in that region of the country. He wanted that. But there was also the sun is feeling like summertime to me. There's a timing element here where Phelan was pushing for something to happen, perhaps a withdrawal. We know that none of this was supposed to go on as long as it has. Trump has come out and said, well, indefinite ceasefire for now. Who knows why or what the deal really is, if it's manipulating the markets, among other things. But the Ace of Swords feels like, and the King of Wands, this was Keg's breath wanting Phelan out, because Phelan's vision for here's what we need to do to be prepared to exit. And that's not what Keg's breath wants. Keg's breath's whole job, the Two of Cups. He wants somebody in there who's going to back him up with whatever he desires to do, keeping in mind that his job, literally, because of so many mistakes that Keg's breath has made, his job depends on essentially keeping the war going. And Phelan was trying to do his job to protect the Navy's interests, and also with a vision to getting them out of there. Like, what is the plan? And we have the Knight of Earth. The Knight of Earth moving too slowly. We're hearing moving too slowly in aggressive tactics. Shipbuilding, we heard, was an issue that John Phelan, as Secretary of the Navy, wasn't implementing plans for more. Because Keg's breath's whole agenda is to keep this going as long as he can. And the Hermit. Keg's breath is planning to bring somebody in there who will work with him to keep this going as long as humanly possible. That's the bottom line. And Phelan did not want that. And the Queen of Pentacles, the money to keep them going, the care of the soldiers. Phelan had a real issue with whatever is going on with whether it is around food, whether it's around conditions for these soldiers that are there, especially in the Navy. That's his realm. There's a real concern that he had. That sun, I see sun as life. And affirming life and taking care, and also the success of the mission. And I think they're recognizing, everyone has said that this is a lost deal. There is no win here. And Phelan, I think, was making that really clear. But Keg's breath's objective, Two of Swords, is to keep everything. Two of Swords, going back to that High Priestess, also a two, is to keep everything mixed messages, mixed signals. We're going to be fine. The soldiers are fine. We're taking care of them. They're not going to be there forever, but in the meantime, they're going to be there as long as we need them to. And that's what Keg's breath is going after. He wants somebody. He wants someone, a replacement for Phelan, who's going to basically buy into this whole. We need to do this as long as humanly possible. That's the bottom line. We need to do this as long as humanly possible. Wow. What a shame. Because you're talking about two career, whether you like their politics or not. I understand that Phelan is one of these billionaire guys, whatever. I don't really know his story. I didn't study it before I taped. So I'm not saying that these are people who are, their politics are necessarily friendly, but their expertise, I think, is what's going to be missing. And I'm getting, Spirit is saying, all of this is going to eventually be part of the pile up that's going to backfire on Keg's breath. When it's said and done, he's going to have so many investigations into his handling of this. Spirit, please confirm. Keg's breath. Four of Swords, things coming to light, clarity around what he's done. And the Hangman. He's trying his level best to stall. things from coming to light around the absolute chaos that is within the Pentagon under his leadership right now, right? For entertainment purposes only. But it's not, when we get over this hump, talk about all the various people who are going to be facing charges and who are going to be under investigation. He's primary among them. Keg's breath is. He is absolutely primary among them. The Three of Pentacles. It will be slow but methodical. There are already, I don't know who it is, but there's already some agency workers, others that are gathering all of the information around him. This could even be because of people like Randy George and now John Phelan, the inside people who know for sure what Keg's breath has done to dismantle everything, and the Seven of Wands to fight back, to fight to bring the truth to light around the damage that Keg's breath has done to the various factions of the military. This will be a part of what brings him down. And I got my ace, the Ace of Swords. This is going to be even more fodder for bringing him down, because again, the only reason why he's still there is, and why he needs war in order to justify his job, period. All right, but it is going to come to an end. Unfortunately, there's the instability of leadership within these different military factions is part of what's going to bring him down. There are going to be people who testify against him. The people who know, who were on the inside all this time and who know. But this does not help the cause for, like, who's in charge of all of these lives that are over here serving. We're going to look more into that. But food shortages, Spirit, last question. Are the soldiers being given adequate food? Are there conditions? Are they being given adequate food? Page of Swords. Four of Cups. They're not happy with it, I tell you that. And the Three of Swords. I think there's something to this, you all. It could be and the Eight of Swords. They're not happy. Now, I don't know it didn't come up in Pentacles, which would represent food itself. So I don't know that it's about that they're not being fed, but the quality of what they're getting, definitely dissatisfied with it with the Four of Cups. The page of Swords is why we saw whether those pictures, Spirit, were those pictures propaganda? The pictures that came out last week showing these plates basically empty. Were those real or were those propaganda? Were those real? Those were propaganda. Okay, Seven of Swords. That was not real. But it was used, again, all this swords energy coming out. Those images were used to highlight. They may not have been factual in terms of actual meals they were being served and the lack of meals or the lack of food, but they were put out there to signal a problem with the sufficiency of what they're being given. So that was the Page of Swords, pushing that information out there. The soldiers are dissatisfied. The Eight of Swords, they're not happy with any of it, and the Three of Swords. So we need to really pray for our military members who are in serving right now and have been called over there, you all. This is definitely, I'm not getting that this is necessarily that they're not being fed, but they're not happy with what they've been given at all. All right. Last thing, Spirit Airlines. So now with everything else going on, and I want to say in relation to that, Spirit just reminded me, Senate went ahead and approved that $70 billion for ICE, right? And getting DHS straight. So they did that in the midst of what the Dems were trying to push for in terms of, rising costs and addressing that. So we see what side the Senate chose. Okay, done. We know what that deal is. It's all about preparing for the midterms and having, this push for ICE to be at the polls. We'll look more and more at that over the summer and in the coming months towards the election. But here's the deal. They had all this money for that. They went ahead and decided to allocate all this money for that. Now, on top of everything else, Trump is talking about a $500 million bailout loan supposedly to Spirit Airlines. However, we know everything's transactional with him. So the deal is, from what the reporting that I'm seeing on it is, in exchange for this proposed $500 million bailout for Spirit Airlines would be that the federal government would have an ownership stake. Not only have tied up to their assets because it's a loan, but that they would also have up to a 90% ownership stake in Spirit Airlines. Let's connect the dots. All this funding for DHS, including ICE. Now you're going to take a potential ownership stake in Spirit Airlines. Is this about deportations? Is his plan to utilize Spirit Airlines? Now the federal government is running you essentially. Is this about deportations? Is this Spirit is the plan? If they loan this money to Spirit Airlines, get an ownership stake, is this tied to their efforts at deportations? The world. It sure is. It sure is. The world can often indicate travel and movement and an end to people here in the States being deported, essentially. Sending them off to wherever. The Seven of Swords, they won't admit that. There's going to be some trickery, deceit around it. No, we're just trying to save a viable airline that we think is worth saving. But it's also going to be at our disposal. High Priestess, not so. Look. Spirit is being really, really clear, you all. You got two cards here, and no shade on the High Priestess, which I absolutely love. But in this context of what we're talking about, can be secretive. The mystery, what's not necessarily always shown, or what gets revealed later. Next to the Seven of Swords, deceit and trickery with the world, deporting around the world. That's the plan. Is that the plan, Spirit? Please let me get it right. Five of Wands, Knight of Wands, and Temperance. There's going to be a fight around it. There's going to be a continued fight around within the leadership as it exists now of Spirit Airlines, because they just want the money to get out of bankruptcy and to not go under. They don't want to become essentially, planes run by and for the Trump administration. So I think that's the deal that's trying to get worked out here in the Temperance card. Is I think somewhere in the language of the deal they may see it coming and want something in that language that protects them from essentially becoming an arm of the immigration forces here in the States. And the Ace of Fire, Spirit just confirmed it for me. Thank you, Spirit. That's what it is. This Five of Wands, the struggle, the Knight of Wands, growing arguments around this is they want within the deal, the heads of Spirit Airlines, who still wanted to operate essentially as a domestic airline as it has, but clearly the agenda for for this regime, the government to give them this loan is to take ownership in them and therefore be able to direct how they are used. That's what's going to come to a head. I don't know that they're going to win because essentially they need the money. But that's part of the deal. That's what they're trying to fight about right now, or at least, make an argument for it in terms of accepting this money from the government. All right, you all, that's what I got for today. I got to get ready to get my toys out and my art supplies and my books and my Play-Doh and my doll babies and all of that and go do what I do. Have a great day. I wish you the absolute best. Keeping our chins up out there. Virginia's going to be fine. Shoulders back. And I went down there. Maybe my heart was in my stomach, right? Some days our hearts are in our stomach with everything going on. Praying for our soldiers for sure. That's a wild situation, and I feel really my heart goes out to them. Keep breathing, right? Sky above us, earth beneath us. Keep your energy going. In the description box, my special code, and it helps me as well as the folks at Otter Spirit. Great gemstones, and I truly believe in them. I wear them all the time. You see, and many of you have commented that you wear them as well. We need all the energy and all of our gemstone mineral earth allies that we can get right now. So please do check that out, and you can get the discounts available through me, through my affiliation with Otter Spirit. All right, I'll talk to you a little later. Bye.